What's good, everybody? Injured here, bringing you another in-depth guide. And this one is because of popular demand. You guys asked for it, you get it. This time I'm bringing you Rook. So first we're going to take a look at Pummel. Pummel is his auto attack on the M1. It does 10 damage, and he actually has a somewhat slow attack speed, so he's not going to M1 trade very well. But the thing with his M1 is it reduces the cooldown of his M2, which is called Crushing Blow. In Crushing Blow, you'll see that he jumps up high and slams the ground. He actually gets immunity frames while he's in the air, and when he comes down, he gets armor break, which lets you do increased damage. I believe it's 20%. So as this guy's armor broke, it does 12 damage. So now your auto attacks start doing more damage, and you can get more favorable trades now when you start M1 trading. And so it's very important to try to use this wisely. Now, some of you may not have played Rook in a while. He used to be able to stop counters with that skill, and they fixed it. It does not. I think that was a misuse of the skill, to be honest. So make sure you're not using this into counters now. You need to use it a little bit more wisely and try to be a little bit unpredictable with it, but also use it again to dodge skills. That's a really important part of it. The next skill, which is his space, is called Rush, and he has a pretty significant distance that he can go for this. So you can see I can go all the way over there and I'm going to hit him. And what it does is it goes in, it hits, it does a little bit of a mini stun so you can stop channels, and it's going to do a little bit of damage, but it just really helps you get in close and gap close. So it's this big gap closer. The problem is though, is if you see, Rook actually moves really slow, and so if you miss your rush, that is probably why you're having a hard time sticking to people and not doing good damage. He is really slow naturally, and he's very easily kiteable. And so that kind of brings us to our next skill, which is his Q, Berserk. And it's a counter. Gets triggered there. Now look how fast I moved there for quite a significant time. I was able to move all the way to this green orb in the span of, how long does this last? This lasts, counter duration is 1 second, vulnerability 1 duration, berserk duration 3 seconds. So in 3 seconds, I was able to move all the way across the map, basically. The other thing it does is, wow, that didn't trigger there? Did I goof up there? So look how fast you attack now. That is absolutely crazy. So you end up doing a lot more attack speed, so you'll do a lot more damage, which again, since you're attacking faster, will reduce the cooldown of Crushing Blow faster. You'll do more damage. I mean, it all just piles on. It's really good. But if you don't hit one of these skills, your Rush or your Berserk, you're going to be in for an absolute world of hurt. So make sure you are not wasting those skills. Make sure you are not wasting them. Next, we're going to go on to Boulder Toss. And Boulder Toss is a long-range AoE skill that has really massive pushback. It actually has a pretty decent pushback on it and deals quite a bit of damage. It's a good spell to be using while poke, and it is a good skill that you'll be able to combo with later as we get into the combos. So next is going to be, I think it's called Pummel or Smack. Yeah, Smack. So it's his R skill. It uses 25 energy. It has a pretty wide arc. It's a pretty significant arc. It has very decent pushback, does damage, and ends up incapacitating the opponent. It's a really good use of skill, and it's a big combo setup, and so that's what I'll share with you in a little bit here as we go into combos. But next is going to be the EX skills. So EX skills are really important on Rook, and the first one is Eat. I think it's called, yeah, it's called Eat. And when you use it, you take a bite of that meat, you heal an initial amount, and then you have a heal over time. It's really powerful. It's really important because Rook has a big character model, and like I said, he moves really slow when he doesn't have one of his movement speed things available, and because of that, he can take a lot of damage. So it's really important to incorporate that as much as you can. Now, the next one is called Meat Bolt, which is an actually pretty significantly long range, and it actually does quite a bit of damage. That was 36 damage it did there, and that, like I said, that is significant. And so if you're trying to chase somebody down, you're unable to, it's going to be really important to try to use Meat Bolt, because it actually helps you if you can't gap close. If you can't gap close, you're chasing, you know, you're already slow, use that Meat Bolt, hit them, and get the kill. 36 damage is a lot. So I'm going to move into combos here with him first. And so I think one of the best combo setups in the game is for him is, so you hit your R, you incapacitate him, you drop your E and you time your space to try to hit at the same time. Ugh, I'm not good at this one, but I've seen a lot of people do it. You got to do it really fast. Let me see if I can get this. There we go. So that was a good one. And so that is a pretty significant amount of damage. And so let's do the damage here real quick. That's going to be 12 damage plus an incapacitate plus 16 damage plus 12 to 24 depending upon how far you go. So for a minimum, it's going to be 12 plus 16 is 28 plus 12 is 40. So that's a 40 HP combo that is going to get you pretty close on top of them and will make a pretty significant impact. Oh, and you know what? I forgot to talk about the ultimate. I'm a big derp, so let me go back to the ultimate. And ultimate is going to be Tremor, which he jumps in the air and does increasingly, slowly increasing damage in a line, as you can see there, and he can move around, and he's immune while he's in the air, so that's really important too. So sorry about that. Totally forgot about his ultimate in this one. But moving on to another combo, which I think is really good, is if you can dash in, depending upon if you know if their escapes or not are available. If they're not available, you want to try to dash in. So that was, I think, 19 damage plus 16. You're going to get an armor break, and then you're able to M1 a little bit. That is a huge source of damage for Rook. Now remember, if they do have a counter available, they're going to be able to counter the M2 now, and it's going to completely negate what you've just done. So to me, those are the two absolute bread and butter counters. Like, those are so important. Another thing you want to be aware of with Rook is that the boulder is going to push the orb, and that is really important to try to control that orb. Make sure you get it. And these long range rushes onto it will do significant damage. You get 24 damage onto it. Really will help your team guarantee that. So from a long range, you can boulder into a rush and almost do like 30 to 40 damage to the orb. Take it out really quick. It's a good way to help your team control the orb. It's a good way to help you keep topped off and to keep your energy flowing. So make sure to incorporate that. Also, your meat smack, or I'm sorry, your smack will also push the orb too. So if you're fighting, and because of that cone, it'll help you be able to hit one of the opponents away, but it's gonna, you know, hit them in the same direction as the orb here. But you will be able to do some damage and push the orb, etc. Maybe get a last hit. That'd be nice. So those are some of the combos. Those are some of the control issues, or not issues, but ways for the orb. And to me, really, if you work on those two combos, you're going to see a huge increase of your play. Something to keep in mind, I know I said this before though, is again, your movement speed is really slow, so do not miss your space, because that's the other thing. You go past, so let's say you were here and you're going to cast it onto the orb and you miss the orb. You're all the way out here now. You're so out of position, and it takes so long to get over. He's so slow. So do not miss your space, and do not waste your counter. If your counter's down, you're extremely vulnerable. So let's take a look at Battlerites. Battlerites in round 1 are going to be Giant, which increases your Berserk duration. And so that's the movement speed and attack speed duration. That's not the immunity duration. And then Crushing Blow inflicts a 0.7 stun, and then Landing Rush allows you to recast the ability within 2.5 seconds. So I actually think these are mostly okay. These are all pretty decent depending upon how you want to play. If you're going against an extremely mobile lineup, this rush actually isn't bad. You can rush in, they'll space away, you rush back onto their face and do a bunch of damage. That's really good. If you want to have the interrupt for the stun, that's really good too. So that way, if you know they're going to have some channeling skills or they have some big windups and you want to interrupt those, use that to interrupt them. I think Squash is really strong. Berserk to me is the weakest of them, but taking that 50% reduced damage is really nice, and it's going to be for 4 seconds now, so that can help you live if you're going to be going up against a high DPS comp, especially maybe in 3v3s. You're going to want to consider this one. Moving on to round 2, Tenderizer, which is if you use your smack, which is your R, and you land it, it will actually automatically have you do the E, which is your EXM1, so you'll heal up after that, which is, I actually really like this one. We'll come back to that though. So then there's Crag, which Boulder Toss cooldown is reduced and knockback is increased. I think that one's kind of meh. and then Frenzy Landing Rush causes you to enter Berserk. This has really nice synergy with the first one that I talked about with Raging Bull, if you want to get that. And I think this one is actually pretty decent too. I think this one is quite strong just because when you land a rush, you put super high pressure and you can make them panic. And if you land it and they space away, you're going to be moving faster, so you're going to be able to gap close just by walking a little bit too, so that can be nice. But I actually really like Tenderizer. I don't think Tenderizer is picked up a lot, and so I might get flamed for this one, but that's okay. I really like it because if I'm going to use 25 energy anyways in my skill, which in my opinion, it's a must to use Smack as Rook. You need to do some of that control. I might as well get the healing from it too, so that way I'm not using 50 energy. And so that's why I get it, because I try to really use Smack like every time it's on off cooldown. And so that way I'm also going to be healing up and try to stay topped off. Next one is Weapon Break. Enemies affected by Armor Break deal 20% less damage. I actually like this one a little bit just because, again, I'm a big target. I like to have some of the damage mitigation, and I don't want to be sitting there getting blown up all the time. Berserk movement speed bonus is increased by 25%. I don't think this one's super needed. I think this is the weakest of them just because you're already pretty fast when you're in Berserk. I don't think you need the extra movement speed. Where with Croak, you know, you're invisible, you get the extra movement speed. Then you're able to gap close for a stun. I think that's much different. So Madness to me is the weakest. And then Boulder Toss deals 4 extra damage and inflicts armor break. I actually think this one can be pretty good too, especially in 3s when you have other people who are doing really good poke. It's going to help their poke do more damage, and it's going to increase your damage overall in the long run too. You might be able to hit a Boulder Toss, and then you might be able to space into them. Your space is going to do more damage, and since you Boulder Toss, it's probably going to be at a long range, so it's going to be big extra damage. And you know, it keeps building on itself, and then you'll hit them with your M2 hopefully. You're going to increase the armor break duration, etc. This one can be pretty good. So my vote is somewhere between Crumble and Weapon Break. I think I would lean towards Crumble in solo queue. But yeah, play with these two and see which one you like. The next one is Pummel Rush. Successful Pummel hits reduce the cooldown of Rush by 0.5 seconds. And so this is nice because it's going to reduce the cooldown of Rush, and they're going to reduce the cooldown of your M2 Crushing Blow. So it makes Pummel quite a bit stronger. And so this one's a possibility. And then you have War Cry. Casting Berserk reduces the movement speed of all nearby enemies. I think this one's probably the weakest, to be honest. I think in some cases it can be good, but it's really, I mean, if your counter's getting triggered, you don't need them to move slower to keep hitting them because you're going to be faster than everybody. And so this is more of like a, oh, oops, I missed, in my opinion. So that's why I wouldn't get this one. And then Recuperate, increase healing received by 15%. And I just think that one can be nice. It helps put a little pressure off your healer, and it helps you stay topped off if you end up using the Eat and the Smack perk a lot. So next is Gain Berserk after channeling Tremor. I actually don't super love this one just because when you ult, they're usually kind of far away from you, and so who cares that you can move a little bit faster after. You can gap close a little bit, but likely you're going to end up rushing onto them anyways or using a Boulder Toss. So for me, it's better that you have Earthquake, which then gives them armor break when you hit them, which also means that your other attacks from your ultimate are going to do a little bit more damage. So I would pick this one, and so my build would look like this. I would usually get, I typically get Squash, or like I said, Raging Bull, and then I like Tenderize, and then I would get Weapon Break just for the sake of it, or Crumble again, and then Pummel Rush, or the Recuperate, and then Earthquake. So that is it for Battlerites. I appreciate you guys checking out the video. If you have any other questions, concerns, or people that you'd like to see do a review on, please let me know in the comments. Please like and subscribe the video, guys, and help us get to that 1,000 mark. We're getting super close to 1,000. I think we're at 920 subscribers. It blows my mind. I can't believe it. You all are awesome. I really appreciate it. You all have a wonderful day.